Hey, this is Professor Homa. Welcome back to P7. This is part 1, and I'll call it part 1 because the overview that we did was kind of the overview. So this is part 1 of actually working on it. It's the second video. And what we're going to do is get started with our Jiffy box. And one thing I want to do first, I'm not going to go through doing all these, but if you want to try out any of these fonts on a Mac, you'll have to unzip them first. And keep in mind, they're all different formats, so it's kind of a hodgepodge of fonts here that were downloaded. Most of them were downloaded from Da Font for free download, so we couldn't really find anything that matched, but we tried to find a couple that were similar, and I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to go and add it to Fontbook right now to use this one. So okay, so when you get your folder, it's going to be zipped, so when you download it, it's going to be zipped. It's about 12 meg or so, and it's going to look like this. You're going to have fonts in here. You're going to have PreArt, which had that Bisquick cover. It has a Jiffy box scan. It even has Jiffy type, which we were going to use that font ID to try to match the font, but we already did that, so you don't necessarily have to do that at this point, although it's good to see what fonts come up because that's how I found the icon font. And also here's the samples, so there's samples in there that you can look at. They're all kind of flattened JPEGs. And now what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go to my fonts. Now I don't think this one's already, I don't have to do anything with this one, and this is the one I'm going to use, but the other ones you'd have to unzip. So I'm going to go to Fontbook, and I'm just going to go File, Add Fonts, and I'm going to go find that one, which is in that Jiffy box revised. And keep in mind, when you unzip the Jiffy box revised, it'll just say Jiffy box. It's just because I added some things afterwards. And you're going to go to fonts, and I'm going to choose, it's actually I didn't unzip the other one, so it's the only one available, and I'm going to open that, and it'll get added to my users, and there it is. And if you kind of zoom in here, you can see it's like kind of a flare serif. The only thing I don't like is the J, which I may change the J a little bit, but I'm going to start with that first and use that as my font. So I'm going to go open up my file, which is this Jiffy box start. So I'll open that up in Illustrator, and then you could save it with your last name. Now there's not a lot here. There's not a lot you're going to be started with, but this is where you're going to do your layout that's going to be exported to Photoshop. And one thing that I noticed here after the fact is that this layer here, layer 5, it should be the box outline. So make sure you take this and move it down, drag it down to the bottom layer, put it on that bottom layer, and you could even lock it if you want. There's nothing on this layer 5, and what I am going to put here, I'll just put Jiffy, so I know that's my Jiffy type that's going to be there. And what I'll do is I'll just click my cursor here and type Jiffy, because that's the name that we're going to be working with, and I'll scale it. And first of all, look at that layer's yellow. Make sure you can change the layer color. You go right on the icon in your layer palette and double click, and I'll change it to anything. I'll make it violet. Change it to anything but that yellow color, and I'll make this nice and big, and then I'll zoom into this. So I'm better zoom now. I can barely see the handles on here, so I'll zoom here and make this bigger and make it nice and big, and it just comes up in the myriad to start. And I'm going to put it in, and it's here on this Jiffy layer. I'm going to make sure I'm going to go to my character, and I'm going to put it in the icon. So I'm going to type in I, see if it jumps there, and there it is, icon extra black, and that is similar to the look that we're working with in here. It's kind of a similar font. Matter of fact, you could even do this. I'm going to go back to Illustrator, and I'm going to open up my folder. If you'd want to actually go to PreArt and actually like drag the scan in, you could drag it into that window so you kind of have it over here just to look at, just temporarily. You don't want to keep it there, but at least you get an idea of the look and where you want to put things. So I'm going to scale this down a little bit so it fits in the box. And remember, this area with the box is kind of the area with the border is really the box. So this area is going to be your bounding area of the box. And I'm just going to actually shrink this in a little bit so it's a little narrower. And this is the font I'm going to use. And what's also nice about bringing this in is you could kind of eyedrop. You could take the eyedropper, and if you want to just kind of sample that color and get that blue color in for now. And I'm going to kind of use that, and what I'm going to do before I do anything else, and if you're going to try other fonts, I would copy this, but I'm going to convert it to outlines because I don't like this J, so I'm going to modify this J slightly. And to do that, first I'm going to go type create outlines, so it's outlines, and then it's grouped right away. And if you want to edit this J, I'm going to put kind of a round end on it, I think, and I'm going to double click to go inside the group and do that. Now, one thing to point out, you could see already, if I zoom into this font, it's got all these little anchor points. And to try and grab these and move them around, it's probably more trouble than it's worth. So what I'm going to do is just take my pen tool, and I'm just going to put a couple anchor points here. And I'll even make them kind of straight to start, and I'll turn this around. And I'll kind of finish it up here. And I should put that outline in a different color. It's showing up in the blue, so I'll make it like red or something. And what I'm going to do, I'll zoom into here. Now, you don't have to do this, but I wanted to do this. And I'm going to take my convert tool, and I'm just going to grab on this, and I'm going to kind of pull that in so it follows that path of the J. And I could grab this other one and bring it in. And this one, I'm going to kind of make it kind of round. And you could do whatever you want with this. And then I'll grab this one down here, and I'll make it round. Make sure you get right on the anchor point. Now I'm going to make it the same color, so I'm just going to click on it, click on the fill color, and take the eyedropper and select that. So that looks pretty good from what I can see right now. Now what I'd want to do is shift click on this and do my Pathfinder and just kind of do a union or an add, as they call it, so to make them come together. Now I'm still in this group mode, so I could double click, and now here I am outside here. Now I'm actually going to go in here and kind of move the J a little closer. Even some of these things are a little, there's nothing wrong with kind of bumping them together a little bit. And again, they're objects right now. It's no longer type. And now when I go back, I'll kind of zoom out and look at the whole thing. What I want to do, I'll use kind of the ultra clean method. I'll use the shear tool, and I don't think I have this selected, so let me select this. I'm going to use the shear tool, which you can do on type or on objects, and I'm just going to shear it. You can hold shift a little bit, and I'll just give it a little kind of angle there. Probably that doesn't even need that much. Just a little bit of angle just to give it a little more pop. Again, using the Bisquick method, and I'll kind of make it a little narrower. And that's what I'm going to do with my Jiffy. I'm just using that new font. So as opposed to this, which looks kind of flat and plain, we're kind of using the same look. Doesn't look a whole lot different. And we're going to, and I could have tried to make the flat J on there too. That could have been another. I like the rounded J, but I could have tried to match and use a flat J and use, even borrowed something from there. So that's, you could do what you want. You could try that too. But I'm going to use this one. And also what I'm going to do, now I have some type off to the side. Now one thing, this says quality and value. It's an outline. If you zoom into this thing, it's actually like a copperplate font. And I think we used to use this, but you could just type this over. You don't have to use that quality, but you can use the same, you can look at it to see what you have to type. But all these things are on their own layers. So all-purpose baking mix and all that. So when you go to your layers, here's my Jiffy. Now what I'm going to do is just add a little red portion to the top. So I'm going to add a new layer. I'll just call it, red top, so I know what it is. And I'm just going to draw a little box up at the top. So just draw a box. I'll have to move it down a little just to give a little top. I'm not actually going to make one of these that actually has something inside it. So I tried that before, but I thought, I'm just going to give it a little, kind of just a little top up here. Gives it a little kind of like header at the top, which just gives a little blast of color. And maybe we'll put some kind of color down here. And also what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring in all-purpose baking mix. And I'm actually going to make a copy of that so I can get rid of baking mix and all-purpose. Because when I did it the first time, I kind of made them different. So I'm actually gonna put them in different fonts. And sometimes having them separate, it's a little easier. I am going to do this though. I am going to put them together. Let me zoom into this again. I'm going to highlight them both, and you can see that's yellow. I don't know why I'd ever have yellow unless I was on a dark background, but let me change that again because that's really hard to see. What I'm going to do is also, and I'll have to zoom out, and I'm going to also use the shear tool and maybe do it the same way. Try to follow the same kind of angle that it's using, and that looks pretty close. And I'm going to do baking mix. I'm going to do I'm not going to use that icon. I'm just actually going to go up and use, I think I use like the Abadi condensed font. It's a nice kind of clean font. I'm going to use that. And then I'm also going to take this and put it in brush script. Give it a kind of that old school kind of look. Brush is very common, should be on your computer, shouldn't you have? That should be on whether Windows or Mac, you should have brush script on there. and there's brush script medium. I'm going to put these together, and I'll make baking mix a little bigger, so it's because that's the main thing. I'm going to highlight both of these, and I'm going to put in that red color, so I'm going to zoom out, and I'm going to take my eyedropper, and I'll select the red from over here, and I'll put this baking mix kind of in this area over here. I'll kind of fit it in this little nook here by the Y. All right, I think I'm going to take a break right here with this part 1 of the box that we started working on, and then we'll continue with the next part, which will be part 2 of working on the Jiffy box.